Hey guys, welcome to the Centre Bounce. With popular demand, people, you guys loved our video with Pommy talking about Doherty. Well, we've taken your feedback on board. We're doing it again. We've got Freo Tragic coming on to talk about, yes, you've read it in the title, we're talking about Sean Darcy. Freo Tragic, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks, guys. Nice to be here. Watch all your content. Really loving what you guys are doing this year. Great having all the guests on and stuff. I think that really brings something different to it. Like, you know, we can all talk to our best Supercoach mates about stuff, but you always get insight from other people. And yeah, you had the couple of past winners on, and yeah, it's looking really good with you guys. And congrats on the 1,000 subs. Well done.
Oh, thanks very much, mate. People like yourself, you know, watching the content, definitely that kind of support there really helps us along the way. And like episodes today, you know, as you say, I think with AFL being 18 teams, Joe and I can't cover all of them. We don't know every single insight and thing on what's happening at different clubs. You know, is a player injured? What's going on? So bringing fans on like yourself, people who are informed for information and videos like today is really important as well.
Yeah, cool. I mean, I am actually in Sydney, and I know Damo's sort of on the ground in Freo, and he might have a little bit more insight than me. But I do follow them very closely, obviously, and I have a bit of, you know, insight into what might be happening down there. But yeah, yeah, Darcy's a bit of a curly one. I love. The 20, I think he's 24. So, yeah, you know, he's still really he's just close to being, you know, to ticking over to that. He sort of broke out a bit early because he was only, what, 22 and 21 when he had that big year.
Yeah.
So he was pretty young for a ruckman to have those huge scores. So the potential's there. Sure. Anyway, we'll talk more about that when we get to him, I suppose.
But, yeah, I mean, everybody's here that is going to be watching this video. I'm pretty sure they're all Sean Darcy owners, and there are quite a few out there. Big J is one of them. So there's a lot of people who are questioning, do we have to move off this guy, especially off the back of last week's performance? And when we, I suppose, load up, when you look at what his break even is like now, he's unfortunately he hasn't done himself any favors, and his break even now is up to a 182. Now, obviously, you don't expect him to go below that when you consider what his opposition is this week, but he hasn't done himself any favors. What's been happening?
Yeah, look, I mean, he's yeah, I'd be so happy if he went 182 this week because I'm holding him. But yeah, look, I think he should crack the 100. I mean, if Flynn can go 132, is that what he went last week? Flynn went 132. Combin went 82 in 3/4. Cherry was on like the most points per minute of any player. He was on about 35 halfway through the first quarter. Yeah. So, like, I mean, surely Darcy. I mean, the only flag there really is if they decide, you know, Jackson's been, you know, towed up in the media, maybe we'll give him more ruck time against an easier opposition, you know. So that's probably the only thing that could really hurt Darcy. But he didn't do much forward. So hopefully they'll just, I mean, when it's a matchup like us against West Coast, I don't think they'll be messing around too much. We want the win. We're 0-2. We're not going to be just putting people in positions for the hell of it. We need to win. So they're going to put their best ruckman in the best spot, and hopefully he'll get 70, 75% game time in the ruck, and he goes, 110, 120 plus as a minimum, I'm hoping. I mean, he could go big. Probably need to kick a couple of goals to go big, but he could go big. Yeah, no doubt about it.
That's the big thing as well. Like you say, this week's the Derby. It's the two Perth teams basically playing each other, bragging rights for all the fans, but also the players for the next year. I think Freo won it last year. You know, they'd hope to try and continue the trend going along there. We saw kind of Sean Darcy got parked in that forward line for a majority of the game. Is that kind of a reaction, do you think, to like Lob not being in the team anymore? Or are they trying to figure things out? Do you think like a forward will come in, that kind of thing? What's happening? Why was he stuck forward for a majority of the game?
Yeah, well, he started forward, which was a bit of a surprise to me. Yeah, there's a few things there. There's a fair bit going on in our forward line. It's really it's the one area of our game that's so up in the air. Tracy came in, and he didn't really show much at all. So I think they were just kind of maybe trying to play with the matchups a bit by putting Darcy forward to start with, to see if they could like outsize the defence a little bit and you know, play some games down there against North. And I actually, you know, I'm a bit not over, but I'm a bit off John Longmuir, because I think he had sort of overstated how well we were going to go against North, and he underestimated them a bit. And you know, their defence held up, and it really kind of threw us in a bit of a whack. And then he had to sort of play around with the magnets a bit, and you know, guys like Amira end up going forward, and we were just a little bit lost down there, to tell you the truth. We had a very inexperienced. You've got a Miss who's had, like, I know he's probably played 7 or 8 games. You've got Tracy, who's probably played less than 10 games. You know, there wasn't a lot of experience down there in the tools. And so, yeah, one thing I think might happen is I think Cox might go forward.
Okay.
He's played forward earlier. They put him forward and he got ball to ground, and he played quite well at the second half of the last quarter. They threw him down there. It's like the opposite of them putting a forward behind the ball when they're getting, you know, when they're getting smoked. They actually did the opposite. They took a defender out and put him in the forward line to try and at least get the ball to ground and be a bit competitive down there. He's a good mark. He's obviously been killing it in defence, but all those people that are looking to bring him in as a cheap option, I think Abs had a whole video on it recently. I commented, I just said, don't do it. Like, I think that might end up forward this week, even for maybe a month, similar to what they did with, when, the guy that went to North Melbourne, he was a bit of a swingman for us late last year. So, yeah, I don't know. Look, what's that Darcy heat map?
This was Darcy's heat map in round 1, so it was a different game.
It's a lot better.
It's definitely a lot better. You know, he had obviously had 78% of the ruck contests in that game, and then when you drop it suddenly by 20% between rounds 1 and round 2, like, it looks so bad. And I can understand the tactics behind trying to exploit the smaller backline, for example, for North Melbourne. But the problem is the disrespect came in the midfield, because when you look at the clearances, 16 center clearances to 8. You know what I mean? It was, the problem was the ball. Okay, you want to try and take advantage of the mismatches forward, but the problem is the ball was only going forward half the time out of the center, because you had Jackson there as opposed to Darcy. So, you know, you would hope that, you know, Longmuir would sort of learn the lesson, that as opposed to try and be tricky at the bookends, probably better to win it at the source. At the source, and try and get it moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I and also, like, Darcy usually takes quite a few marks around the ground, but we've had this really stagnant ball movement. So, you know, by the time the ball gets down to him, if he is in the forward line, there's 3 defenders there ready to, like, jump over the top of him and spoil it. Like, not getting it down there quick enough for him to have a mismatch in size, or for him to have a chance to mark it against an opponent. There's just, you know, and that's, you know, one thing that's sort of bothering me about Freo at the moment is our ball movement's just been really slow. Like, even when we're winning it back in the defence, we're doing that a lot, you know, but we're just not getting it down there quick enough. And I don't know really what quite's happening there. Clark's been all right running off half back, and and linking up a bit, but we're just not getting those handball chains out of defence. And I mean, like Dacos just runs past, gets a 1-2. He's, halfway through the centre squares off the halfback flank, and he's kicking it into the forward line, and it all happens in 10 seconds of play. That's just not happening for Freo. We're going wide. We're going back into the corridor, but it's getting spoiled again. There's a scrimmage. We're back in our back line again. Like, we're just not playing great football. And, I don't really – I mean, there you go. There's a stoppage play where we just don't even have any representation around the ball. Yeah. Even if you win the
shout out to JD for sharing this one. Big props to you, JD. Thanks for that. But like it's just the mids. You just feel like the mids aren't firing on all cylinders. Maybe they're not presenting well enough to the back line. Because, as you say, it's a lot of chipping the ball around, and you're seeing some ridiculous scoring from your defenders, aren't you? Because all of a sudden, when you're looking at the Fremantle scores, they're all massive in your favour, but that's not really what you want to see. You want, as you say, like the Dacos, that quick ball movement. You end up with the Luke Ryans with 122, the Brennan Cox with 131. Hayden Young the week before also had a big score. He's averaging 93. Like, it's not conducive to positive scoring. Do you see this changing though? Do you see faster ball movement coming this week?
Yeah, I hope so. I hope we're going to start playing a sort of slightly faster brand of football. It's a hard one. It's I mean, half the reason why those guys are doing so well as well, I mean, is because it's in there a lot. So we're not winning centre clearance, so we need to start winning the ball out of the middle, and then the defenders won't be getting as much ball because it'll be down in the forward line, So I think, even looking at it, like our turnovers and everything haven't even been that bad. It's more the fact that we're actually just losing centre clearance, and we're I mean, we do turn the ball over a bit, but what's that? So
it's better than North Melbourne. I mean, North Melbourne had 74 as opposed to 61. You are being clean with the ball. It's just that you're not. It's exactly. It's because it's slow and not damaging. That's why it's able to be so high, the disposal efficiency.
Yeah.
Do you think that last year, obviously Mundy was in the team, Fife for a period of time was a little bit more involved in that midfield. Do you feel like with Jager Amira coming in, they're still trying to figure out kind of what the dynamic and things like that is like with the midfield? Like, who comes in, who takes more of the possession balls? Because obviously Andy Brayshaw needs a bit of help. I think that's one of the things we found last year was he's a fantastic footballer, but he really needs that support. Even during this game, like Brodie wasn't as influential as what he has been, like around the stoppage, that kind of thing.
Absolutely.
Is it a case of Freo needing to figure out their midfield that will boost Darcy's scoring again?
Yeah, I mean, it might take a little bit of time for sort of obviously Brodie and Jager haven't played much football together, so it's going to take a while for their cohesion to get together and them to learn how to be in the centre together and, who's going to go. They're both inside balls, so if they're both putting their head down trying to get the ball, who are they going to give it to on the outside? So I think we've got a lot of ball finders and not really – I mean, I think Jager would play better almost more like the Andy Brayshaw role where he sits outside a bit, he's a good clean user and maybe not stick his head in there, let Brodie and Sarong and that get in there and get the ball and just and use it a bit more on the outside. But I also think that with his experience, Jager's tending to take the most dangerous midfielder from the opposition and sacrifice his game, like Sarong's done in the past. So I think it will take a while to sort that mix out for sure on who's the best one to sort of be grabbing it and who's the best one to be using it on the outside. I also think that we just had a bit more trust in our forwards with Lob down there. You could just get it out, kick it long, and he'd make a contest, and our good small forwards would get in and under his feet, and if he didn't take a grab, then at least we could maybe feed off that a bit. Whereas I think, Jackson's not really doing that for us. Like I said, he's a bit of a younger guy, so, the media's been all over him, but he's 22 or 23, and he needs to sort of have a bit more time in the system before his game really comes to fruition. But yeah, I think that's one of the things. We're not really trusting our forwards. We're not kicking it down there quickly. We're more like trying to take these slower routes. So that's not really helping any of our tall forwards.
No.
Because, you know, once the numbers get back, like I said with Darcy, it's very hard to take a mark down forward when you've got the full defence down there and a couple of midfields flooding up space as well, you know.
And because
especially when he's there to take like the number one defender, because you don't really have any other talls kind of pressing for that spot. You know, last year, like you say, you had Lob. If Darcy was there, he'd at least be guaranteed the number 2 or the number 3.
Yeah, well, any of those key defenders down back for the opposition are willing to peel off their man because no one's that dangerous that they have to stay on them. Whereas at least with Lob, we had one guy stuck to him, which meant that at least one of the other guys was getting a second defender. Whereas the way it's working now is people are just peeling off and going and hitting the dangerous ball. So, yeah, it's a bit of a worry. But back on Darcy, because that's what we're here for, who are people most trading him out for? Is it
Darcy Cameron?
Is it Darcy Cameron? Or is it
I've seen a lot of Darcy Cameron. I've seen people upgrading to a Wits. I've seen some people going across to an English. Joe will pull up kind of who's getting traded the most. I think if you, is it on that one? Traded out for. There you go. So people going for Darcy Cameron the most. Yeah, and then English and a couple of others.
Let's go. Yeah. Look, if you're doing it for setters, look, I don't care who you trade out if you're getting setter goat in. This is it's all worth it in my eyes.
Can I tell you something? 1,752 people have got Darcy Cameron already. That's why they're going to Setterfield. Because who else you putting in your rucks? You know what I mean? Like, so they've got Darcy Cameron in their forward line and they're just switching him up. And look, at the beginning of the year, we were all going, Cameron might be a top forward. There's going to be DPPs. Don't put him in your forward line. But at the end of the day, it's looked like a bloody genius move if you started Darcy Cameron in your forward line because you can get out whatever ruck. And maybe it's Gawn. You can switch Gawn to anyone you like, LDU, Dacos. You know what I mean? Like, so having Darcy Cameron forward looks like it was a bloody genius move now.
It does. Would you agree with this? Do you think that there's enough panic, there's enough question marks, and no quick fixes for Freo, for Sean Darcy in particular, that you think it's warranted that, you know, now is the time to trade him out before there's any price dips? His break even is very high. You know, is now the time to move him on?
If he wasn't playing anyone but West Coast, I'd say yes. Like literally anyone. If he had any other opponent this week, I'd say get rid of him. The other difficult thing is it's first price change. So is that your biggest worry? You know, literally, like you want to get in Setterfield. If you don't have Zeeble, you want to get in him. If you missed any of the rookies, Sheasel, Ashcroft, McKenna, Gimby, McKenzie, you need them in. Priorities, okay? And then my like to have list is Chandler, Hollins, Wilmot. And then if you've got them, like I wouldn't be getting them in, but if you've got them, you hold Long, Cowan, Baker, Green, Davey. You know what I mean? These guys you hold. The only real rookie that everyone's got that you'd trade out is Chesser.
Yeah.
Okay. You know, he's the only one that you would prioritize. You know, if you don't have a Chandler and you've got a Chesser and you've got the trades there, do it, you know, no problem. But, I mean, I would prioritize getting in Setter Goat. I'm going to try and call him that for you there, Joe. Setter Goat and Zeeble over getting rid of. I can see someone doing, like, if you've got, okay, let's make this a scenario. If you've got Ridley this week, he's coming up against St Kilda. I would see someone maybe going down from Darcy down to Darcy Cameron because it frees up 100K. rather than going Ridley straight swap for Dacos. You know what I mean? Like as a priority. If you're going to do that this week.
Yeah, you're thinking more about the points. You're the way you're thinking about it. It's all about points more than anything, because you know that Ridley's got a very favourable matchup
as well. At the break-even game as well. I mean, if you started Setterfield and Zeeble and you've got most of the good rookies and you only need to switch over one, then maybe you could look at, getting rid of Darcy this week. No problem. But, the amount of people that have got that and don't have, say, a Steele or a Gawn to deal with, like people have got problems in their team.
Of course.
Good teams. There's not many teams, that have just got 2 free trades floating around this week to swap Ridley to Dacos and maybe get in Cameron over Darcy. I mean, if I had that situation where I had all that happening and I didn't need the cash, I'd probably go Darcy to English anyway, because I just think he's, you know what I mean? Like English is looking fucking great.
He is
behind the ball and takes marks. He's not going forward as much, but he just sits in that centre square and goes down to the halfback to the forward line. They use him in handball chains. He's a good enough runner that he's probably one of the better runners out of all the midfielders. Gawn's actually a really good runner too for his height. But
he is.
did you hear that about Gawn and Grundy in the preseason? That Gawn just smashed Grundy in all the running drills. Smashed him.
I'm not surprised. Not surprised.
Like everyone's going, oh, Grundy's so mobile. It's like, no, Max smashed him.
Yeah.
Like he left him way behind in all the running drills. And Grundy was kind of embarrassed about it, to tell you the truth, because he thought, oh, yeah, I can keep up with Max. But no, not even close. Anyway, if you're going to get rid of Darcy this week, don't go Grundy. That's my advice. Even though he's solo and you make 60K, don't do it.
Yeah. Just to clarify then, so Sean Darcy, the player's okay. It's more the structure and the forward line issues and the midfield kind of issues, not having the support with him to really help him out. Try and hold for this week unless, you have no trades that you have to really do because he's versus West Coast and he should go big. If he doesn't, then it's like warning signs. But at the moment, hold unless you have the trade and really kind of look to do it. Because I know there's a lot of pressure coming out of Freo for Longmuir to keep his job almost at this point. Like they're not expecting to be 0-2 the first 2 weeks. So, yeah.
Oh, look, I actually had him pegged to go down a little bit with those losses in the forward line and a bit of depth loss, and we are relying on a few younger players and stuff. Grundy's a pretty big loss as well. He really was that guy that organised the midfield. He'd drop forward when we needed a goal. He'd go behind the ball if we needed it. Like he just knew where to put himself. He's such an experienced footballer. And, I mean, similar to what's going on at Geelong with the loss of Selwood, it's really hard to quantify how these players affect a team. Just looking them in the eye when they're out in the field, the sort of, the way he can just, like, look at everyone like, we need to go here, like – That sort of leadership is very hard to quantify. And I think Mundy is kind of underestimated what he did for us in that respect. He sort of came across as a bit of a laid-back, surfy guy, but when he's on the field, he was very competitive and he was a bloody great user of the ball. And he was, I think people understood how good he was, but even in his older years, like, he was still very important for the way we went about it. So he's a bit of a loss. And Jaeger may fill those roles in the coming months, but you don't just step straight into that. You don't have that effect on a team straight away. So it may take a while for us to get going. Hopefully we get a win this week and that'll help. But, what else, guys? One other thing I wanted to say about Cox moving forward is that we've got Hamling, who's actually a very good defender, and he's sitting in the twos and he's fit now. Hamling, sorry, that we got him over from the Doggies actually 2 years ago, and he was injured for a few years, but he's still a very solid defender. So there is a chance that he comes in, plays defence, and then we move Cox forward. Like that's just as a bit more experience.
Yeah,
that's a big one. That's big.
That's something to look out for. That's something that could legit happen. And Walters should play, I reckon, this week. I think he'll start. They might sub him out, minutes and all that stuff. So they might sub him out. The only other one that might come in is Corbett from GWS. He scored 2 goals in a scratch match for our seconds team, and he looked all right up forward. So, but I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he came in for Treacy, and you know, Tabiner might even get dropped. Like he's seriously been out of form. He's been subbed out of the game the last few games. He's hardly marking it, and he just looks rubbish. So they might get rid of him. There might be a few changes this week against West Coast. I wouldn't be surprised if Longmuir just like wielded the axe a bit, dropped 3 or 4 players, restructured our defence and forward line, and we went in with 3 or 4 different people from our starting lineup. So he may not, but that's something to look out for in team selections anyway.
And hopefully that means that we see more Sean Darcy in the ruck, in the CBAs, like everybody is hoping, like all people who hold them, like yourself and Big J, will see. I don't have that problem. I'm a Wits owner, so I'm living scot-free here. So thank you so much for coming on. We really appreciated you giving us all this insight into Sean Darcy and what's happening over there at Freo. Is there anywhere that our listeners and our viewers can find you and reach out to you on the socials?
Yeah, I'm on Twitter at Freo Tragic, and I write a bit for supercoachtalk.com, which is a website that does a lot of Supercoach content. I don't know if you guys ever jump on there, but we do lots of stuff. The feeds are going mad at the moment with the trade talk and different stuff. So, yeah, get on there if you like. But, yeah, that's about it, really. Yeah. Hopefully I'll get on a few more of these things. I might be doing something more with DR. I did a few team reviews with him. So, yeah, love getting on and talking Supercoach. So, yeah, that's it. Thanks very much to you guys for inviting me on. It was a bit of a last-minute thing, but love to talk about Darcy. I wish he was doing a bit better when we were talking about him because I do love the man. And he is still young, guys, so his best is I think even with 60% ruck time this weekend, he can still go big.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I think they will give Jackson a bit of a run in the ruck after what's going on, but hopefully he'll get the majority of it and he puts together a good score and we start moving the ball a bit quicker. That'll be good.
Yeah. All righty then. Guys, remember we've got our Supercoach group as well where you guys can win some amazing prizes. Jump on there. Code is 222976. All you got to do is follow us on Twitter, like us, subscribe on YouTube. Any final words, Joe?
Yeah, guys, make sure you hit that notification bell because we are pumping up the content all the time for you guys and girls, of course, out there, and all the in-between if you don't identify as either of those things. We have put up just now, before we recorded this video, our watch list video for this coming up round. So please make sure you have a look at that. And remember, here at the Centre Bounce, we do the hard work so that you don't have to. Bye for now, guys.